Why isn't crypto going up? This is the market update. I am your host, Bill Noble, and I will tell you. Let's start with this. The first trade after all of these meetings and summits and trade things. Okay. The first move is always wrong. Let's start with the Fed. We'll go to the trade deal. Then we'll go to Bitcoin. Then we'll go to alts. So don't go anywhere. Coming up after this, we got the YouTube member podcast where we're going to be talking Bitcoin, Solana upside targets, and the altcoin spike list for you traders out there, which will be the next altcoin to spike 50% out of nowhere, the way Zcash, synthetics, and other coins did. We have a big list of choices, and we have your friendly neighborhood clairvoyant crypto analyst to help you sort that out so you can make money even when this market is okay. The Fed. Every big mistake starts with denial, and the first trade is always wrong. So let's put it together. Powell comes out and is like, okay, I did my 25 basis points. It's all about risk management. What risk is that? Oh, risk that your institution gets closed down? Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. That's the risks. But December is a whole other deal because I could never admit that there's a problem. I could never admit that we're low on emergency funds. I could never admit that, Merry Christmas, here's a pink slip is going on all over the place, right? Again, these are themes along with these altcoin spikes that we've discussed extensively in Patreon and coming up in YouTube. So Powell can't admit there's a problem. He won't admit there's a problem. And you know what? From his point of view, maybe that makes sense. I'll just come out and pretend everything is okay. They did it right until they couldn't back in 2007. So we'll just pretend everything is fine. We'll say the AI trade is not a bubble like 2000. Some of it is, some of it isn't. That's fine. Just come out and say everything's fine. We don't need to lower rates. Then what happens? All the algos and all the crypto people who believe that it's the Fed and the sovereign's job to moon their bags all sell or all get liquidated or all get discouraged or whatever. Okay. Meanwhile, back in stonks, they all got bearish on this recent down trade, and all those shorts are getting blown out of the water. So our pain trade is down. Their pain trade is up as the Magnificent Seven melts up. Everyone tried to get short the stocks that are doing wild spending. They came out with great earnings and said they're going to do even more wild spending than anyone thought, and stocks melt up, enhancing the pain for crypto traders. However, Powell didn't admit that there are any problems out there that could cause him to have to come in and flood the market with liquidity. Now, it does make sense for him to not create any additional froth in markets. Okay. But the fact of the matter is, the guy got a little bit standoffish when he may have a problem that's perhaps bigger than anybody thinks. He's going to have to come in with liquidity because banks could have problems, and he's out of emergency funds, and we got banks living on emergency funds. So I don't know how you reconcile his grumpy attitude with the jobs reality and the liquidity reality. How do you reconcile that? Okay, well, I think it has to do with not looking like he's trying to cater to the orange man and give him everything he wants. But that doesn't change the reality underneath the hood. So, okay, Bitcoin went to 115 and everybody got long, and now we have to watch the ninnies sell it at 109 or 108 or whatever. Whatever. In case you haven't been watching Watcher Guru lately, it's like market goes up, shorts liquidated. Market goes down, long liquidated. Everyone is losing money in these ranges except for professional traders. When the reality is going to hit home. And it's going to hit home suddenly. In other words, you're not getting the steady up trade. You're not getting the orderly news. We're going to have this casino game back and forth ping-ponging in this range. And then you're just going to wake up one day, in my opinion, and it's going to be off to the races. Because even though there was a disappointment trade, it wasn't a disaster. It wasn't. Like, everything is still in its range. And frankly, I think anything under 110K Bitcoin is juicy. And people are still focused on a crash. Like, I checked the recommended YouTube titles, and it says, what happens if Bitcoin goes to 100K? Well, let's talk about it right now. A year ago, when Toby said Bitcoin's going to 100K or 120K, everyone was like, oh my God, that's so awesome. Now, if it went to 100K, it would be a catastrophic crash and everybody would have a complete meltdown. First of all, I don't think 100K is likely. I think if it goes to 100K, it's going to go below that. If it comes down to that. Okay. I don't understand why that would happen, because you have all the reasons why liquidity has to come in. You have Bitcoin following gold, and you have something better than I could have thought possible. The Federal Reserve in denial. The Federal Reserve in denial. It makes me want to buy Bitcoin even more. And looking at the screen, go, oh, look at these dummies selling this. In other words, I'm just getting more defiant, and my attitude is, stop me out in Bitcoin. Now, I realize your altcoin bags are down. Your altcoin bags were down when Bitcoin was at 115. Right? And the Solana ETF, as we talked about all day yesterday, is being ignored. Solana ETF, they have to put liquidity in the system. They're in denial. Who cares? Another reason to let Algos push you out of the market, because Algos read the news. Crypto expects, the sovereigns to moon their bags. That's never happened. So everyone sells. Now we go to the trade deal. All right. So everybody expects, the orange man to show up, and he expects to get a big hug from a communist leader who, has anyone who opposes him, like, escorted out of a large room and not seen again. That's who we're dealing with over there, right? The last communist leader to give a president a warm greeting was Mikhail Gorbachev. And then after that, the whole Soviet Union and Russia fell apart. So if you think the guy running China doesn't know that, you're crazy. So Orange Man goes over there and he's like, yeah, we're going to do a great deal. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Like he's building a hotel and casino. Now, everybody else, the market, is expecting the Chinese leader to be like, yo, what's up, Donnie T? I can't wait to come here. I'm so glad you're here so I can completely roll over on all the trade stuff and give you a huge win, and I could be an embarrassed clown. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's great. Give my best to Melania. Okay, so the Orange Man goes there and says it's the greatest thing ever. And, the Chinese leader is pretty stoic and everyone sells. What were you expecting? No, they did a deal. The deal's already been done. This is just theater. I mean, he's going back in April for more theater. They're going to get NVIDIA chips. They're going to get everything they want. Why do you think NVIDIA is rallying? Right? The market knows. So everybody sees the headline, and everyone was like, oh, well, he didn't eliminate all the tariffs, and they weren't best friends like they were with the guy that runs North Korea, so sell. Right? They bought the Magnificent Seven. Most of the rest of the stock market was down. Powell's telling you tariffs are creating inflation. Other economists aren't telling you that. Again, Powell working with outdated numbers. So if you look at the news and you look at the optics, nobody got what they wanted. So everyone sells. However, the reality is the trade deal's already done, because if it wasn't, equities would be getting hammered. Not so. If anything, they're getting squeezed out of all their short positions. And everyone in crypto has unrealistic expectations about what officials are going to do for you. When the point is, you want to actually buy crypto because these individuals don't know what they're doing. So even if they do know what they're doing, there are serious problems that they're forced to ignore. Right? I mean, have you seen this thing on Air Force One where the Orange Man's talking about like, oh, let me ask you about a third term? That's definitely not happening from a legal constitutional point of view. But that's what they're talking about. What are they not talking about? Oh, wait. They're not talking about all the things that moon crypto. Right? So everyone's like, it's negative, I'm selling. I'm like, no. It's bullish. They're ignoring all the things that bring in Fed liquidity and bring in people going, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. Because, I mean, unless you're in the Magnificent Seven, stocks are not doing well. And if you didn't understand any of that, how about this? I'm going to say the P word on the air and see if I can get away with it. So Jim Cramer has moved his price target for Palantir. You know, the guys that make like video recording units, let's call it that, you know, the eye in the sky. He's moving the target from 200 to 250. Let's go Palantir. Yeah. You know what kind of world those guys create? The kind of world where you need to own crypto. You need to be protecting yourself. Okay. In other words, privacy is normal. Privacy is freedom. Privacy is the new style. Janice McAfee just used a new word, a different word, but, you know, they're talking about the big airdrop that's coming up for antivirus holders for a big new privacy coin. And it's amazing. You know, I got it here on my screen. I got Cramer pumping Palantir. And, you know, you have a perky rally going on in Zcash. But the rest of privacy has not moved yet. You have a leading indicator in Zcash, but you got the whole rest of the cryptocurrency market not moving. Having a conversation with Toby yesterday, XRP should be higher. And we've talked about this. And all they're doing is selling. And you're getting irritated. I know you're irritated. I know you are. Because I am. Right? Now, when I get irritated, I go, that's exactly where they want you to be. They want you to be irritated. They want you to be out. They don't want you to be long. They want you questioning your position. And then one day you just wake up and boom. It's literally a waiting game. And you've almost, not investment advice, it's just an opinion show. You've almost got to be long and hold it and wait for the day when everyone figures it out. Everyone's going to figure it out, especially in Bitcoin. Like I keep harping on this fact that, my goodness, I mean, Bitcoin is absolutely way, way too cheap. You know, Powell says December cut is not for sure, far from it. Okay. Keep looking at the outdated data. Yeah. I mean, he may do it. He may not do it. By the way, in case anybody's thinking that what he does is the absolute thing that matters, the bond market can lower rates without him, just like the bond market increased rates without him. Remember, in other words, and he's going to have to put liquidity into the market. So you have sovereigns in denial, a trade deal that's old news and already done. You have Magnificent Seven stocks where they squeezed everyone out. You got to ask yourself, do you want to buy the S&P at 6,800? We talked about this yesterday, but not this specifically. Do you want to buy the S&P after earnings, which is kind of like the sell the fact period? Like, where do you want to have your money? Like, I kind of changed my mind about the Hedera ETF. I'm like, you know what? If you were a portfolio manager, you can just say, you know what? Let's get a portfolio of cryptos. Let's get a portfolio of cryptos, right? Oh, we have a big social media company has a little bit of a problem with their stock this morning, down 10%. Interesting, right? Very interesting. In other words, do you want to own that stuff? Or do you want to own a diversified basket of crypto, which could include Litecoin, Hedera, Solana? I was like, I got a little bullish, the Solana ETF, silly me thinking that Solana could do what ETH did on the upside once they discover the ETF. What a radical idea, right? What a radical idea. In other words, you have the Fed cutting rates with the S&P at an all-time high. I got a question for you. Why are they cutting rates? Why are they cutting rates? I mean, what's the problem, right? S&P's at an all-time high. Everything's fine, right? Right? Wrong. And you may have the first thing this morning with, the social media company that your dad uses or your mom uses just kind of fell out of bed. Little bit of overspending going on here, boys. What do you think? So again, that's, may not be good for the stock market on the initial trade. And everybody seems very enthusiastic to sell. Let's see, we got Solana back in the range at 190, Bitcoin at 109. Everybody wants to get upset and everybody wants to puke their altcoins down 5%. And you know what I think? I think you let these guys puke this for a little while. Maybe you let them puke it. Let the algos follow whatever happens in stonks. And then maybe at the close of business today, maybe you just take it from them. Maybe you let them make it look terrible, because it does look terrible. Oh, it looks terrible, right? But that's when you want it the most. Like ETH has a big DeMark support point at 38.60. Looks like the algo is going to go run the stops, right? What else is there to do in crypto except run the stops? Every headline is like such and such person gets liquidated. You had a really nice bounce off the lows at 248 in XRP. XRP goes to resistance at 259. And now it's not a bull market until you can buy a dip and make money. And listen to me, right? I'm talking about the long term, buy the dip. They're in denial. There's a big move that could unfold on any snap higher. But what is there to talk about? Well, there's a range between 248 and 259 in XRP, and it's doing a 62% retracement of the last pop up in yield. Insane. Absolutely insane. And check this out. Let's revise what I said about the bond market. It looks like interest rates are going higher. So it looks like the bond market is buying into the Fed not cutting rates or not needing to cut rates anymore. Okay. That's not good for crypto. That could be why they're hitting the market today. All right. Anything that scares stonks helps Bitcoin and the Solana ETFs. I'll take any freak out in legacy, because I will tell you this much. You get an increase in interest rates with Uncle Sugar is still shut down, right? That's going to create more stress in the system. Now, of course, that won't be good for altcoins today, but what I'm trying to get you to do, which is why I want you to keep listening to me, I'm trying to get you to see that whatever is going on here benefits the idea of getting outside the system. Palantir at $250 a share, really? Does that, if you buy a stock, if you get like, I don't know, if you get like 10 shares of Palantir, do you get a free order of bugs with that? Do you? I mean, because you have to ask yourself, when it's trading terrible and Palantir is being cheered on by kind of a reverse indicator kind of guy on earnings, right? Oh my God, earnings, like, buy the news, like that ever works. As a human being, what do you want to do? Right? Freedom is down 5% and bugs is, got another 20% upside. You going to buy into that? I would encourage you not to. Right? I mean, you got the Bitcoin ETF. Let me just give you a level in the Bitcoin ETF. So the Bitcoin ETF, I guess the big level is 60, right? It's currently at 62. That would probably be a very unpleasant drop if it happened. But there's also support at 61, and it's been in this very square range. Why, oh, why is everyone selling Bitcoin, right? It's insane. It's like, and one macro guy says, this is funny because they are ending quantitative tightening as of December 1st. That was announced and expected. So again, the algos are not trading that. But one guy says, if you think wealth inequality in the United States is bad now, wait until QE round 5, which brings me to a good point, right? You got to protect yourself from what? I don't know. You're going to have to join Patreon and listen to the 6th Street Crypto podcast because, frankly, I'm just too scared to discuss what you have to protect yourself from. Matter of fact, we don't even have to say that, right? Because how can you benefit from the world as it is? By buying like the worm-eating stock or by listening to Janice McAfee or Michael Saylor, right? What happened to Michael Saylor? What happened to Tom Lee? Why aren't these guys pounding the table? Now, I don't know. Maybe they're scared or maybe they're just quietly accumulating. You don't know. You don't know, but you do know what they told you at 120 that you believed. And now that they're hitting it at 108, you don't want to believe it. Your alts are down 5%, and that stinks. But one of the ways you can take advantage of this, and we're gonna go to the YouTube member podcast in a half hour. If you're going to get ready for certain suppressed altcoins to eventually turn around and start spiking 50%. In other words, that may be the game in alts. Alt season may be an hourly basis. Like, okay, what alts are going to go up 50% in the next 3 days? That may be alt season for now. But it's still a 50% gain in 3 days. It happened in virtuals. It happened in Acash. And as soon as they stop trading the news, never trade the news, right? Never trade, I used to say, the newspaper. Never trade off the newspaper. Never trade off today's news. When I first started in the market, it was a point of pride that whatever was being reported in the paper on, say, Wednesday, I was hip deep in on Tuesday in the foreign exchange market. What's the market doing today? Oh, well, they're trading the news. They're selling the news in crypto. And, I don't know what they're doing in stonks right now. I don't know if they're having a reality check or what. Let them have a reality check. Let the bond market scare people. Great. Bitcoin at 108. Bitcoin at 108. Will that seem cheap in 3 months? Will that seem cheap in 3 weeks? Because one of the things that's worked in this market is buying despair and selling euphoria. That may be the game. In other words, if you buy despair, one time you'll buy despair and it'll just go. And that's kind of how you have to play it. Like everyone's trying to tell you, well, alt season should start any minute. Okay, well, crypto season starts as soon as there's a wake-up call in legacy. As soon as everyone realizes, oh, wait a minute, instead of selling Bitcoin, we should be buying it. And if you have equities in the red and Bitcoin in the green, the whole world changes like that. Will that be today? I don't know. Should you be getting ready for that? Absolutely. Absolutely. Crypto Crazy Knowledge Dump, a member. Welcome, sir. DNT Saver, DF for the channel. Synthetics. Dude, DeFi. Oh my God. If we are not doing DeFi in this environment, especially with the bond market reacting the way it is, God, that's going to shake up an already shaken up system. I keep looking for something sensible to happen to end the fear, and the things that are happening increase the fear, which keeps bringing me back to crypto. T-Bone, A Spartan Colonel, welcome. Both Chris and Maggie. Tyler Hall from the AIntivirus universe. Big airdrop coming up. Big volatility in antivirus coming up. Big airdrop for the Matrix token. The Matrix token trades on its own blockchain. You know, a McAfee built McAfee universe privacy coin. People still don't get that. They still don't get it. They will. They will. Zapedas, a member, welcome. GMG coming in from the UK. Welcome. And of course, we have Hal Lopez from Portugal, who never misses a show. Wrong again is like TAO, and I will tell you, TAO is on the spike list. I think it's between 25 and 40%, but I can't give away what the magic trigger is for a spike that's coming up in a half hour. Of course, we have Felix. Okay, we have Bull Runner, and Felix is like, Bill, I think it's time to call this a bear market. So let's talk about that. Is this a bear market? You know what? I got a great idea. You want to tell the truth? Let's tell the truth. In altcoins, this has been a bear market since the meme coin top in 2024. And really, the election was a Bitcoin move and kind of like a giant squeeze or bull trap, because it went straight up and then just everything went back down to the lows. It's been a bear market since March of 2024, which is why I keep expecting it to just end suddenly, because no one has gotten gratification. No one thinks Bitcoin can go any higher. Everyone's bags are destroyed. Everyone's losing their mind today over Powell. Powell's laughing at you today. And in a month or less, you'll be laughing at him. Because if some bank or some problem surfaces because of these cracks, I mean, again, you think about it. What do we want in crypto? Oh, we want legacy to moon our bags with their behavior. So now you got a big earnings miss. Whoops. And you got a whoopsie daisy going in the bond market. Doesn't help crypto today, but you don't trade today. We're not trading today. We're not trading the newspaper. We're trading what's next. And if the bear market ends suddenly, you want to make sure that you're positioned, or at least you have something. If you can't take the pain, make an adjustment. But listen, if you've been living with this for a certain period of time and you haven't hit a stop loss point, or you're not completely wrecked, you have to be able to hold it together, because you know the big players are down there in the Solana ETF, in the Bitcoin ETF, and in all these big cryptos, the cryptocurrencies, right? Zcash, XRP, you know, that Matrix token at the McAfee universe is airdropping, right? Chain's not built yet. It's pre-mint, but again, right? I mean, Hedera, right, isn't down today. Like, I'm not a Hedera expert. That's Wendy O. But Hedera is not down today. That's not a surprise, right? Because that ETF could be a surprise. Nobody thinks it means anything. I blew it off yesterday, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Why am I blowing that off? What goes up? What no one owns, what no one understands or hates, and no one knows how to buy. Nobody in Schwab knows how to buy the Hedera ETF. They don't even know it exists. It's perfect. Okay, so down today. So either I'm out of my mind and the first trade is always wrong, or we'll see you at 98K. I'm leaning towards the first option. We will check with the Oracle in 30 minutes to find out whether I'm right or whether I'm crazy. We will see you tomorrow or in a half hour if you hit the join button.